Welcome back. Really fun podcast for all of you today. We're focusing all of our podcasts this month, in case you haven't noticed, on goal setting, on business planning, on really how to set yourself up to have your best year ever. And today's podcast is along the same lines. So what we're doing is Goal Crushers, Secrets of Top Real Estate Agents. So it's not just about setting goals, because frankly, I think that's a relatively boring topic, right?
Yeah, and they should all be about there by this time of year, of
Yeah,
course.
well, the whole goal setting topic is kind of, I think, overwrought. No one ever tells you actually how to create action plans behind each of the goals that you set that are drilled down to the point where the goals actually happen. And that's the failing of most goals. Like I was reading this morning, Julie, and you and I know this because we go to the gym practically every day, but most people set the goal of going to the gym every single day, and most people stop going to the gym around the end of February. Now, I thought it was the beginning of April, but from what I'm reading, it's the end of February. And it is so funny when we go to the gym, it's definitely people we've never seen before.
Yes, for sure.
Lots and lots.
For a while.
And Julie and I are always very encouraging, especially if the new ones go up and introduce ourselves and all the rest of it, just for no other reason than just hoping to make more friends and helping them feel encouraged to come back. And the people at the gym aren't all, crazy people. And so you should be doing the same thing. If you haven't set a physical goal, just as for example, I'm going to foreshadow what we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to give you guys a physical goal, a suggestion how we're going to break it down, and then Julie's going to get to her notes. We are huge proponents of organized fitness like Orange Theory. So for example, Julie and I, we lived in Georgetown, Texas, north of Austin. We went to Orange Theory every work day. And so what were all the benefits of going to Orange Theory? Physical benefits aside. Well, Orange Theory, and the reason we say organized class as opposed to just going to a gym where you're just going to be by yourself doing your routine, or you and a trainer or whatever, an organized class forces you to interact with the other people, forces you then to be part of an expanded community. And guess what then happens? You start being known within that community as being the real estate expert, and then you start getting real estate transactions. So Julie and I did not sell real estate in Texas, and yet we are consistently generating leads out of the Orange Theory that we went to and sending those to all of our great coaching clients and EXP Realty folks in and around Austin. And that is something that you guys can do as well. So if you're planning on, for example, here's the goal. Your goal is this year to get in your best physical condition ever. And I'll help you define that. You're going to lose 20 pounds. You're going to take supplements every single day. You're going to have a nutritionist, or at least your doctor, do a blood test on you to see where you're needing different nutrients. And there's a bunch of different ways to go about doing that. We'll drill down on that more. And whatever other, maybe you want to look into having hormone replacement therapy, things like that. You're going to research all this. Don't take too much time to research it. And then what you're going to do around the physical goal, just the Orange Theory goals, here's what you're going to do. And it can be Orange Theory or something else, but remember the organized fitness aspect of what I was talking about. You're going to go to the local gym. You're going to join. You're going to prepay, okay? And then you're going to schedule yourself for classes on different days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday. Now, different times, that way you get to know different people, but you have to, so the Monday, Wednesday, Friday group, make sure you show up at the same time. That way you get to know the same people, and the Tuesday, Thursday thing, show up at the same time. That way you get to know those people as well. You guys get it? And maybe you want to throw a Saturday on there as well, but keep the time and the days consistent, and don't just, radically change your schedule. Otherwise this won't work, because you won't be, making friends. You'll always be a stranger. So yes, that's what you're going to do. That will then force you to have essentially a scheduled out, drilled down action plan to actually lose the 20 pounds and keep the 20 pounds off. And also the side benefits are going to be lots and lots of new friends, and guess what? Real estate transactions. So when we're going through the notes today, I want you to start thinking expansively. It's one thing to say, I want to lose 20 pounds. It's another thing to say, well, here's my plan to lose 20 pounds. And so we're going to be going through all this today, but open your mind. And I really, Julie and I received a lot of really nice emails and messages on our Instagram page, which is at Tim and Julie Harris, about the podcast series we did on, I mentioned this yesterday too, but I got more of them today, Julie, on Instagram. People in their 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s thanking us for basically reminding them that they're not too old to accomplish all of their goals.
Yes.
And reminding them historically how many folks accomplish their highest levels of success when they're in their 40s and their 50s and their 60s. And statistically, that's when most people accomplish their highest levels of success, despite what popular culture will tell you. And so even if you are, point being, in your 40s, 50s, 60s, or even 70s, that does not give you an excuse not to get your butt back in shape, all right? And if you are not motivated enough by that, think of all the new friends and all real estate contacts you'll be making and all the additional money you'll be making.
Yes, exactly. All good things, right? So again, today we're talking about not just how to set goals, but how to achieve those goals this month, this quarter, this year, this week, even today. Most of you have already set your goals for this year. If you haven't yet, you can go ahead and grab your real estate treasure map. Again, that's your fill in the blank personalized business and life plan by signing up for premiercoaching.com and getting started. But for the rest of you who already have your goals written down, whether that's a fitness goal like Tim just outlined for you or a financial goal, it's time to get serious and drill down on actually achieving those goals. That's what today's podcast is about. It's one thing to write them down, it's another thing to follow through. Today, we'll share the secrets of top real estate agents, what they do to deploy and what they deploy to crush their goals every week, every month, every quarter, to ultimately then create their best year ever, no matter what the market conditions are.
So Julie mentioned the treasure map. The treasure map is your fill-in-the-blank business and life plan. We talk about it every single day on our podcast because it really should be the launch pad for your business and your life, especially in a new year. And what it does is it kind of, I think, allows you to hit hard reset and really set clearly defined goals. Because the whole treasure map, the whole point of it is, there's several points really, but it's to make it so that ultimately you have a lot more, I'd say, confidence and faith that you can accomplish what you set out for yourself to accomplish, because it's writing the goal down and creating the action plan, putting dates around it, having accountability around it, the whole thing. We spent a lot of time on this plan, update it quite frequently, and it's one of the things that you get when you join Premier Coaching for free. And you can join Premier Coaching now for free. Just go to premiercoaching.com or text the word Premier to 47372 and you can join. And absolutely positively do the real estate treasure map first. And then remember to attend your daily semi-private coaching call with our Harris certified coach. Any time of year is a great time to join Premier Coaching, but obviously this is the best time of year to be joining Premier Coaching. So go ahead and do that now. And yes, I know a lot of you are asking about Ethical Real Estate Professional. We are going to be including that in Premier Coaching. So join Premier Coaching now and you'll automatically get that upgrade in the next probably 2 weeks. I have to say, it's been one of the biggest organizational challenges we've had,
sure.
Reorganizing, making, this is really going to be Premier Coaching 2.0, making it so that it's something that all of you guys are going to love. Ethical Real Estate Professional, we're confident is going to really change the rules for all of you in your real estate businesses. I want you to go over and take a peek. Go to ethicalrealestateprofessional.com or go, frankly, just to Google and just Google Ethical Real Estate, and you'll see the website. That's going to be that is a consumer-facing website where all of our Premier Coaching clients will be featured, and it'll be a place. It's obviously a prestige brand and logo. It's the ultimate in branding, frankly, that you're going to be able to let the world know that you've accomplished that designation, and that's going to give you an unfair advantage in your marketplace because chances are not very many of your competitors will have the designation. And it is free, included in Premier Coaching. So go to premiercoaching.com and join or text the word Premier to 47372.
All right, so number one, your goals, in order to achieve them, not to just write them down, not to just have them, have to be what we call SMART. So write down S-M-A-R-T. It spells the word SMART, but why that acronym? Well, the S stands for specific. Clearly define your objectives. So for example, aim for secure 5 new listings per month rather than a vague goal like increase sales, right? I mean, nobody ever says I want to do fewer sales, but you've got to define that. So be specific. In Tim's example at the top of the podcast, it's not just get in better shape and lose weight. It's lose 20 pounds, sign up for a specific workout regimen, hire a coach, etc. So be specific. The M in SMART stands for measurable, establishing criteria to actually track your progress. How are you going to know if you are achieving those goals? Like the number of client meetings, the calls made weekly, contacts daily, number of pounds lost if that's your physical goal. It has to be achievable and realistic. So set challenging yet attainable goals. For example, if you have been averaging, let's say, 12 transactions per year, maybe you have a strong desire to do 80, but in order to get from 12 to 80, you're going to have to go through some incremental changes. It's got to be achievable and realistic. That doesn't mean you're not going to get to that bigger goal, but be realistic about how you're going to get there. And then time bound, that's the T in SMART, assigning deadlines. Oh, that's the scary accountability part. Urgency, focus, deadlines, that's time bound, like achieving a certain number of sales by the end of each quarter or the end of each month. If you're losing weight, the amount of pounds lost in incremental segments, like per month or per quarter. And here's a quote for you: a goal without a plan is just a wish. So,
I dare you to try to pronounce the name of the person that said that originally.
Antoine de Saint something French.
Something French? I don't
Yes.
think that's how you pronounce that last word.
That's how you translate that.
Exupery.
Exupery,
Yeah.
yes.
All right, good. So point number 2, focus on one behavior at a time.
That's right. Concentrate on a single habit change rather than trying to overhaul your entire life. If you try to do too much at once, of course you're going to get frustrated and then you're going to back away from that goal. So some examples. I have 3 examples for concentrating on a single habit change with regards to real estate, of course. Commit to never ending a day where you have leads you haven't called. I have had coaching clients tell me, Tim, and I'm sure you have too, that this specific thing, committing to never ending a day where you have leads you haven't called, email and text don't count, your voicemail should not be full, for example. No matter what the lead source is, commit to calling the leads back immediately every day. I've had coaching clients time and again tell me that they have increased their business between 30 and 50% per year by taking their lead follow-up that seriously.
Let's talk about that, okay?
Yes,
and
of
so
course.
if you are frankly in the business for 10 years or less, or even 5 years or less, you've been lied to about lead follow-up. I'm just going to say it straight up. So let's just really break it down. What is a lead? A lead is it's not just a name and a phone number. A lead is somebody who you've pre-qualified. You need to be more specific and more, frankly, drilled down on who you treat as a lead. And if you treat all, essentially leads, all incoming people offering you their basic core information at the same, you're missing the boat. So when you get a new lead, you have to, and this is one of the last things we think you should ever delegate as you build a team, assuming you want to do that, which, we've done a lot of podcasts on the fact that smaller agents with 1 or 2 assistants make vastly more profit than agents with teams. And by the way, work a hell of a lot less too, despite what you might believe. But that aside, if you look at, for example, what were we just talking about a second ago?
Them being lied to about what their lead follow-up
Right.
should be.
Julie and I just had some a little procedure on our eyes, frankly, and we had. If you guys want us to talk about this too, we mentioned it the
Maybe
other
on
day
the Friday show.
On the Friday show, yeah, we had what was it called? Lens replacement
Premium
surgery?
lens replacement, and it's got some fancy name to it about the actual type of lens. Everybody thinks it's LASIK, but it's beyond the LASIK.
Yeah, it's actually replacing the lens, not actual LASIK surgery. If you guys Google premium lens,
Interocular lens replacement.
sounds
what it's called.
sounds gross. Okay.
It was kinda.
Yes, but we had it done about a week ago, and
Only 4 days ago.
4 days ago.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So, and I just took eye drops for the podcast, and guess what happens? My vision is a little blurry right now.
Tried to warn you.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the reason you're doing it after the podcast. Smart girl.
I know.
All right, so a lead. When you get a lead in, first of all, it's important. Number 1 is going to be when you generate the lead. The next point is furiously fast lead follow-up. And
By
Julie,
phone or
by
in person.
phone, exactly. By phone. If someone texts you, if someone communicates with you digitally, you can just banter with them a little bit back and forth, but you've got to get their phone number and you've got to call them back, because you're going to get vastly more information from them on a phone call, secondary only to obviously in person. So then use our pre-qualifying script, which we include in Premier Coaching. And if it's a buyer, use the buyer pre-qual. If it's a potential seller, use the seller pre-qual. And go through all the questions and ask them all the things so that you can absolutely positively know what's going on with their motivation. You're going to find out what their time frame is. You're going to find out if they have a house to sell. You're going to find out all the things.
Are they also a buyer, for example?
That's if they show up. Now it's the actual opposite of that, Julie. A lot of these buyers, agents,
right.
the buyers show up in these. I got to turn the Wi-Fi off. A lot of the agents will absolutely positively not realize that they actually have a seller on the phone, because when they get the lead is coming in as a buyer, and they treat him as a buyer lead.
That's
And then they put him in their buyer funnel, and then they drip on him as a buyer. Had they called them back and used our script, they would have realized in many places, depending on your price point, that 70-80% of all your buyers actually have houses to sell, and they're not going to be buyers until they sell their house. But you're treating them as buyers, losing the greatest opportunity, which is having them as listings. So hopefully you're following me all this. So furiously fast lead follow-up, fully pre-qualify them on the phone or in person. That is a lead. When you've got somebody that's fully pre-qualified, you know what their motivations, time frames are, if they're working with any other, all the questions on the pre-qual form, which you get in Premier Coaching. That is what we call a lead. You guys don't call leads that, do you? You call leads any, Tom, Dick, or Harry that shows up in your life.
A contact.
A contact, right. That's what we call a contact. So if you just want a bunch of contacts, you can just randomly grab a list of phone numbers, and that's the equivalent to some of the leads that you guys are calling leads that are really just contacts. Understand why it's important that you differentiate, because when you have a pre-qualified lead and where you know everything about them that there is to know, you're going to be able to really drill down and frankly do a hell of a lot more transactions. That only happens when you do furiously fast lead follow-up, and only happens when you pre-qualify them. Here's where the part where you've been lied to. Many of you have been in the business, and frankly not figured this out yet, that the last thing you do is generate what you call a lead, but what we call a contact. And never call them, never pre-qualify them, but you stick them in a drip campaign. Yeah. Even worse, you generate the lead from like a Facebook ad. The lead never actually is contacted by really anybody over the phone. Everything's done digitally, everything's done passively, everything's done with videos you did 6 months ago and emails and all the rest of it. And you're shocked and surprised that that doesn't work very well. If you want a real boost, let's say you have a big database. If you want an immediate boost in your business, call every single person in your database urgently, use our pre-qualifying script, and then find out what the heck's going on with them and find out what their motivation is, and you'll discover that, if you have 100 what you're calling leads, you probably realistically only have 10 that are ever going to transact. That's fantastic. Make it so those 10 work for you.
But you have to know who those 10 are.
And you're not going to know until you call them. Because remember, there is nothing that is your sacred, I'm air quoting leads, but they're really contacts, aren't just yours. No. They're in 1,000 other agents' databases. And one of the things that these lead selling companies, I was about to say a bad word, do, is they sell the lead to multiple agents. You know that. I don't even have to convince you guys anymore that bot leads, especially bot buyer leads, are mostly very low quality. You already know that, don't you? We've been saying it for years because we have coaching clients, because we talk with them about the quality of the leads that they get when they decide to come to us and say, hey, I don't understand why I'm not converting more of these buyer leads I've been buying from Zillow or whatever. And it's because they're just, randos that are not that interested in transacting, and that same lead was sold to 10 other agents. I'm not sure if Zillow does it that way anymore, but a lot of these other companies, that's what they do. And even if they don't sell that lead to multiple agents, it doesn't mean that consumer isn't going to multiple websites and filling out multiple forms, and then that company is then selling to multiple agents. You guys get it?
Yes, and here's the other thing that you've got to erase from your mind. They'll call you when they're ready.
They won't.
Okay, maybe if you're lucky, your best past clients who you've done 2 or 3 deals with, maybe. But other than that, especially the digital leads you were just talking about, they're not going to call you when they're ready. They're not even going to remember you because they're getting lost in your drip system and everybody else's. I mean, just you and I have, every day we get all kinds of random listing alerts and things like that, right?
If Donald Trump emails us one more time or texts me one more time, offering to sell me a damn hat, I don't even know what I'm going to do.
Want a hat?
Yeah.
I know, where everybody's in everybody's system. So remove from your thought process that they're just going to call you when they're ready. No, what they're going to do is they're going to wander into new build, they're going to fall in love with it and just write it through that new build rep, not ignoring your existence. Or they're going to go to an open house and buy that. Or they're going to respond to the person who happened to call them today because they're interested today. So don't lose leads for lack of communication. This is the best, what got us on this mini rant tangent, is the example of how to actually achieve your goals. And one of the habits, we're talking about this point, focus on one behavior at a time, commit to never ending a day where you have leads you haven't called. That's something that every single person listening can do.
And here's what the reason, so if you go through the reasons why agents don't do what we just prescribed to all of you, is because, first of all, they didn't know that that's what they were supposed to do. So you guys,
Not your fault necessarily.
Not your fault necessarily, I agree. Number 2, even you do know you should have called them, but you didn't know what to say, you didn't have a script. Well, you're Curious Premier Coaching. Number 3, you just didn't want to do the work. You didn't think it was important. Hopefully, we've now convinced you that it's important. Hopefully now you know that you're not going to be able to get those folks passively to want to work with you. And I also want you to think about, ultimately, if you're, for example, thinking about buying a thing, it doesn't matter what it is, who is it that ultimately you're going to do business with? Isn't it the person who's doing the best job? It's an expensive thing, let's say. Who is going to be the person you choose to do business with? It's the person that does the best, most professional job following up with you, trying to be of service, not the person that's sending you passive emails that you kind of surmise are essentially panned emails that they send to every single person. You guys get it? So if you want to be, if you're not happy with the results that you're getting from your lead generation, it's because the lead generation might be fine, frankly. It's the lead follow-up. Yeah. It's the pre-qualifying. Exactly. That's where you guys are falling down. I'm going to give you a little side note here. You guys all need to go to 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com, 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com. It is without a doubt the least expensive, most effective way of generating free, not just buyer, but seller leads. 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com. The website will explain everything to you about how that system works. Subpoint number 2, Mrs. Harris.
Yes, commit to starting. This is another new habit, isolating one habit at a time. Commit to starting and ending the day at the same time. Seems so simple, right? But have a set wake-up time and a set quitting time. Treat your business like a real job where you're actually accountable for showing up and doing the work required to get your desired results, in this case being your goals.
Let's be honest. Good luck doing that if you work primarily with buyers. Seriously,
yeah, that's right.
Good
Because
luck.
you've got to work when they can go see houses, right?
You're gonna be working the off hours. You're gonna be missing all the family activities. You're gonna be working when you'd rather be spending time doing other things, right? When frankly other people aren't working. That's when you're gonna be working if your business is primarily working with buyers. That doesn't sound very good to me. Why don't you choose to work primarily with sellers? And that's one of the focuses we have in Premier Coaching. Again, premiercoaching.com. But you're not going to have, if you're working primarily with sellers, and listen to the podcast we did yesterday, if you have 5 listings at all times, you can have, frankly, a couple virtual assistants that handle not just virtually everything, but everything other than the the lead generation, lead follow-up, and the presenting and pre-qualifying, frankly. We'd like you to continue to do that. Everything else in your real estate business, you can 100% delegate to staff. And that's going to mean that you're going to be able to have a business that's going to be normal working hours. And you'll be able to control your time. And because you're working primarily as a listing agent, if you choose not to work with buyers anymore when you follow our Premier Coaching system, we've shown you in Premier Coaching how you can start delegating those buyer leads. We've had people that have developed health issues, but they're great at prospecting, great at setting appointments, or they have a big, huge swath, a big geographic area that they work, and they'll drive a couple hours. These are people like out in Montana and whatnot. They'll drive a couple hours to get to the sellers to go on listing appointments. But working with buyers in those markets, that's just way too much. So they'll refer those buyer leads out, and they'll collect 25, well, who does only 25% anymore? Most of them are doing 30 to 40% referral fees, and the buyer agents are happily taking those leads. So expand your thinking, and if you're not getting in control of your day, it's because you're choosing to work primarily with buyers and not with sellers, or frankly, you just haven't developed the business, the mindset, and the business discipline to have more respect for your time and more respect for the importance of, not thinking that you have to live the life of a real estate agent. You can actually have
You have a lot more control than you think.
You do, if you choose to. That's really the bottom line. Point number 3, track your goals visually. This is huge.
All right, so if we're talking about financially, we recommend using monarchmoney.com. They're not a sponsor, but they should be because we talk about them and we use them personally. monarchmoney.com for financial tracking. That's very easy to use. It's both an app and a website. You can get it set up this afternoon. It's either cheap or free. I think it's virtually free. And then for everything else, you're going to utilize whiteboards for other specific goals to keep them visual and actionable. So I wrote down, just to remind myself, because they're going to ask, what should you track with whiteboards? Well, all of my private coaching clients and our Premier Coaching clients track their leads, their listings, their pendings, and their closed transactions. Now, these are individual boards. Each of those whiteboards has a value to it. So, for example, choose your financial goal. Let's say that you wanted to earn $200,000 in this next year. Well, what is the value of all the leads that you have? If all of your leads were to convert, and remember, Tim just very much clarified, what is the definition of a lead? People you've actually pre-qualified. We're not calling contact leads anymore. We're saying these people are pre-qualified if they're buyers, and you have a date with motivation and time frame if they're a seller. Your leads board has a value to it. Perhaps you've got $20,000 worth of leads right now. That's 10% of your $200,000 goal. Now, what are your listings worth? If you've got those 5 listings, active listings at all times, you might have, 25 or 30% of your goal already in active listings. It's helping you track, are you on track, ahead, or behind? You won't know if you're not tracking them visually. Does that make sense?
It does. And Monarch Money, Julie mentions, is awesome for tracking everything. It's got a widget in it that Julie and I use every month where it predicts what your recurring expenses will be. We had a rando recurring expense. Did you research this yet?
Which
From
one?
Ancestry.com of all things.
Like 100 years ago.
From 100,000 years
Oh,
ago.
and we had somebody else like trying to repeat bill us, some, I don't know, some vendor or something.
Yeah.
But Monarch catches this kind of thing.
And so you guys
cool.
want to do that. And Monarch Money, if you connect with us, we definitely would love to have you guys as sponsors. Yes, so point number 4, break down goals into manageable steps.
All right, so divide larger objectives into smaller actionable tasks. If you've never contacted an expired seller before, for example, don't set a goal of speaking to 20 this week or today, because you're just going to frustrate yourself. Start with breaking the ice. Get help from your coach so that you excel faster. So for example, begin with 3 expired contacts per day for 1 week, and then move to 5 or 10 the following week. Don't freak yourself out by over-setting goals. I know that sounds weird coming from a coach, right? But when you break it down into manageable steps, like maybe you've never in your life talked to a for sale by owner. Just the thought of it is just so foreign to you. So to think about you're going to make 10 contacts to FSBOs today or this week, maybe that's unrealistic. What's the first step? Okay, go to a for sale by owner open house and have a conversation with them.
Let's give them
Maybe door knock one of them today, this afternoon, and go on a tour of the house.
Let's make this practical, okay? So I want you to imagine you did the real estate treasure map and you now know what your personal overhead is. You've got everything into Monarch Money. You're able to track all your expenses. Everything is visual in front of you the whole time. So you now know what your personal monthly overhead is. You now know what your business monthly overhead is. You now know what your tax obligations are. Mm-hmm. You now have another category that's just going to be the things that you choose to pay for, vacation, or you're going to buy your loved one some special gift or whatever it is, right? So all these things are written down and there's a dollar amount that's assigned to them. Now you know, then what you're going to do, now you know what that number is, and then you're going to figure out what your average commission is, your gross commission after you pay your broker. So the average amount of money that you'll be receiving from your commission checks. Then I want you to take the total amount of money that you have to earn, want to earn, the want to is the trip to Paris, you guys following me on all this, and divide it by the total number or your average commission check to you. And that's going to tell you how many houses you have to sell. And we mentioned this the other day, and we mention it on our podcast all the time, because that is one of the greatest ways to relieve stress, because you have the numbers in front of you. Just by me saying it like that, don't you guys immediately have a sense of relief? You do, I know you do. And so the magic that comes from that is that oftentimes, I would say, I have never had an experience with helping someone do this over a phone call, coaching call, where this hasn't been the output. They have to actually sell fewer houses to have their best year ever than what their ego is telling them they had to sell.
Yes, 100% of the time. I agree with you, and we've had thousands of calls like
and
that.
It's mind-boggling because they'll be like, oh my God, I sold 50 houses last year. Like your typical coaching client sells like 75 houses a year, Julie.
Yep.
So they'll say, well, I'm going to sell 150 this year, 125. And then, okay, why do you want to do that? Well, it's because I did 75 last year. Okay, so let's talk about that. And then you go through the process of real estate treasure map, breaking down all the numbers, knowing what the number is. And you'll then discover that they don't even need to sell 75. They need to sell 50. They have the ability to sell 75. They saved a lot of money last year. That's obviously motivational because it's helping them accomplish future goals. But they know that they can manage their time better. They know they can do lead follow-up better. So they can realistically, without sacrificing too much, frankly, personal time, personal things, they can get to 85 or 90. Well, let's do that. But what really happens oftentimes is you'll have a coaching call and it'll be somebody selling, they had a great year. They sold 25 houses. They made, $500,000, whatever it is. And now they want to get to 50. And you ask them why, and they say they don't know. Well, it's because I did 25 last year. Well, why do you want to get to 50? Help me understand. Well, it's just because what I want to do. It's just because, or the number that we hear a lot is, I want to sell 100 houses in a year. That's just like...
Or I want to make $1 million.
Exactly, all these things. Well, look, those goals are great, and I strongly encourage you to go for them. But what happens is they're not real. They rarely happen unless you do the other maths that I just showed to you. So if you know what all your numbers are, let's say, for example, your ambition is to, buy a new Corvette, and your ambition is to go on that trip to Paris. Your ambition is to buy a lake house, whatever it is, right? And then you assign a number to it, and then you now have some very clearly defined goals. Then we make a drill down plan on how much you're going to set aside from each check to accomplish those specific goals. You guys see what we're doing? So it's not just a goal of saying I want to buy a new Corvette. It's the goal of setting aside, creating the actual action plan that's based on real numbers not just on, the universe is going to bring it to me, I'm going to manifest it, but actual, real practical approach to accomplishing goals. And then what happens is your goals get accomplished. And oftentimes, because you have very clear vision of how to go about doing this, they accomplish faster, which leads me to another funny subtopic, which is definitely true. Once you become a prolific goal slayer, is what we call it, where you set goals and you always accomplish them, the mistake you're going to make is not setting big enough goals. So once you learn to accomplish, remember Julie said the small goals first, and she's going to talk about that in point number 5. Once you start getting really good at, you went to Orange Theory every, 5 days this week. Now you've gone every single work day in the past 30 days, those types of things, right? Once you get really habitual about accomplishing your goals, it just becomes the person you are. You are the person that accomplishes your goals. You're going to accomplish your goals, 12-month goals that would have been 12-month goals last year. You're able to do now in 90 days, and that's what happens. So if you are at that point already, and you're wondering why you're not accomplishing more, it's because you're not allowing yourself to go to your next natural step, which is thinking bigger. So here's the visualization. You're at target practice with a bow and an arrow, right? And the bow and the arrow, obviously you guys can visualize the bow. It's in your hand. I want you to visualize the tension that's on the cord, the string. You're holding the arrow steady. You see the target way down range. Maybe it's 100 feet away. And obviously the center is red, and then there's the rings that denote, all the things. So your goal is to hit the dead center. Your whole goal is to hit the target. Your goal is to hit the goal. Well, I want you to think about this. If you aim at the target, dead center, and by the time that arrow gets there, you're aiming dead center, where does that arrow go? Hits the ground, doesn't it? If you aim below the target, well, obviously you're going to completely miss the target probably altogether. If you aim above the target, by the time that arrow wistfully makes its way to the center, to that target, it hits dead center. So what's the takeaway? Always aim above the target. Set goals, if you're a prolific goal setter, or even if you're just getting started, that are a little bit out of reach, that make you a little bit comfortable, and then you'll find yourself accomplishing more things faster. Because setting goals when you have action plans that are actually drilled down, like we'll do with you guys in coaching, it's really fun, because you all of a sudden start doing things you never thought you would do. If you really follow our suggestions on all of this, because this is how Julie and I have lived for, we've been married for 33 or 34?
34 this year.
34 years this year, right? So we have been doing it this way for 34 years. And it is fun to sit at the end of the day with your 1 glass per day of wine and be able to celebrate, what you were able to accomplish that particular day, but really in the past 12 months.
Well, what gets to the accumulation effect that we talked about yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. Listen to yesterday's podcast. All right, enough about that. Next point number 5.
Well, I love your arrow analogy, because that really illustrates what we're talking about, to shoot a bit higher than where you are going to end up.
Yep.
So number 5, celebrate small wins. Recognize and reward incremental achievements to maintain motivation and reinforce positive behaviors. Oprah said, the more you praise and celebrate your life, the more there is in life to celebrate. That's really true. And you can take that to virtually anything in real estate. Maybe you've been struggling with making your calls, but you were successful for the first 3 calls today. It's funny how agents always ruminate about, I had this terrible thing happen. Well, what are 3 really great things that happened before that terrible thing happened, right?
But this goes, again, we tell them to do this in the treasure map, but this goes to the fact that a really fantastic day, week, month, year, life, really comes down to, generally speaking, 3 to 5 things every day that you do, every single day, no matter what.
Not 15 or 50.
Not 15 or 50. So the 5 things, might be, for example, you're going to go to Orange Theory every day. You're going to do Furiously Fast lead follow-up every day. You're going to pray every day. You're going to show, gratuitous, overt love and appreciation to all the most important people in your life every day. You're going to write 5, letters or cards to people showing, again, overt appreciation to folks every day. You're going to make 5 contacts every day to expired listeners. You guys get it? So your a win day, a huge day, is just the accomplishment of those 3 to 5 things, not 15.
Those are your small wins that you do every day.
Every day, and then at the end of the day, you celebrate because you know that you're making the accumulation effect work for you, because you've done these small wins every single day. You're starting to see the benefit of all the past effort. Like, it's funny that Julie and I, this is something that we kind of stumbled upon, but it's kind of funny. It makes us laugh anyway. Is the life that you're experiencing now, the house you live in, the food you're eating, the people around you, the clothes you're wearing, everything, the money in your bank account, the experiences you're having, are a direct reflection on the past version of you, right? So the past version of you, the decisions that you made, in your past, you're living the results of those decisions now. So if there are aspects of your life now that you're not loving, it's because the past version of you maybe was a little lazy. Maybe it was chasing too many shiny objects. Maybe avoiding the real work of real estate. Maybe didn't want to go to the gym. Maybe decided not to show overt gratitude towards the people in your life that you love the most. Those types of things. You can change all of that. You don't have to keep on allowing those, essentially misbehaviors to determine the future version of you. So when you're thinking about, if you really want to attach to something spiritual, in my mind, I want you to ask yourself, it's a year from now, you guys have come down to Puerto Rico. We're sitting on the beach here in Puerto Rico in Dorado, where Julie and I live, and Zoe and my mom and our dog. And we're sitting on the beach, and I ask you this question. I say, Bob, because we finally met Bob. Okay.
Finally.
Bob came down. All right, so Bob, what are the 5 things that you're most proud of having accomplished in the last 12 months? And here's what's going to, if I asked Bob that today, and you guys should ask yourself that. So Bob, you're listening right now, what are the 5 things you're most proud of having accomplished in the last 12 months? You're going to give me big, amoebus, blah, blah, blah answers. Well, I finally was able to something, right?
I worked out more this year.
Right. There's no specific drilled down things. You didn't lose 20 pounds or save $100,000 or walk up the Eiffel Tower or buy that new Corvette or donate that money to the church or whatever, right? You didn't, coach your kid's soccer team you guys get it? So that's the problem, is that people don't have specific, they'll start the year out with goals, but there's no action plan behind the goals. The action plan is the secret sauce to make the goals work. So if that's you now, forgive yourself. I've forgiven you. Julie's forgiven. You are forgiven. But 12 months from now, when you're down here in Dorado sitting on the beach with us, I'm going to ask you that question. What are the 5 things you're most proud of having accomplished in the last 12 months? You need to tell me what they are. You need to tell yourself what they are, because the future version of you wants to be loving on and singing the praises of the current version of you, because all the things you're going to do in the next 12 months. You guys get it? So again, Julie and I were, having a good day, we're often realizing we're just basking in the glow of the past Tim and Julie's efforts.
Right.
That's all we're doing. We're riding the waves that we've created from our past 34 years of marriage.
No, but we also know that by doing the things that we do today, this podcast being one of them, future Tim and Julie will be able to look back on today and say, thank you for doing that. So that's where you guys need to get, is think into the future for yourself, so that you can look back and say, thank you past you, thank you past Bob or Bobette for having your act together on this day and the day after that and the day after that, because that gets you into the positive accumulation effect.
The awesome part of that is that really goes down to the reality that you choose your own destiny. You're in charge of essentially what your future is going to be. Nobody else is in charge. You make the decisions of how you're going to react. You make the decisions of what you're doing, what you're going to do and not going to do. You make the decisions of whether or not you're going to be of service to other people or not. It's a miracle, and you should embrace that, because you are in control of the results that you get, or frankly, the results that you choose not to get.
Exactly. Well put. And that is true. But it's also true, point number 6, you should build a support system for yourself. So it's not just you going it alone. Join premiercoaching.com so you can find support from our Harris certified coaches. We've been talking about how coaching can benefit you and save you a whole lot of time getting to your goals. And here's a quote for you from Napoleon Hill: whatever your mind, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. To your earlier point, you are in control of this. Whatever you conceive and believe, you can achieve, but you need an action plan to get there.
Okay, so another little quick interesting fact.
Sure.
This is very fascinating, and it goes in alignment with the Napoleon Hill quote, and at least I think indirectly it does. Fun fact, did you all know that when you set a goal, the more people you tell about your goal, the less likely you are to accomplish the goal?
I know that's weird, isn't it?
It is weird.
It's true, though.
But I've heard different, there's been different people that have studied this, but the only real logical explanation as to why that's true is because you get a little bit of a, psychological payoff by just sharing your goal without ever having accomplished it. and it's like, oh, I'm going to lose 20 pounds this year. Oh, you don't need to lose 20 pounds. You look great, Bob.
It takes the goal away.
Or you say, well, that's great, good for you. So all of a sudden you're getting this little bit of a that boy, which is in that encourage, whatever you want to call it, it completely takes the wind out of the sails of being actually able to accomplish the goal. So the silent goal setters, believe it or not, those are the ones that are most likely to set the goals. So when you're setting goals, share them with your spouse, your loved one, but beyond that, keep it to yourself. And don't advertise your goals on the wall of your office or whatever, unless your office is at home, right? And you can share them with your cat. So again,
I don't know. Cats aren't always supportive.
maybe this is another reason why you haven't been setting your goals, is because you publicize them everywhere. You talk about them all over your social and whatever, and there you go. You lose motivation to accomplish them within the next 30 days.
That's right. I mean, I did do some reading on that, because I find what you do, there's a lot of research that proves that. A lot of people say that you're essentially consciously or subconsciously pre-celebrating the accomplishment of that goal, which you haven't actually done, because you're posting it and getting that little psychological hit from it. So be careful with that. All right, number 7, optimize the work environment. This can be fun. I work with a lot of coaching clients on this. Organize the workspace to minimize distractions and enhance your productivity, like keeping your desk clutter-free. No more goat paths of files, guys. Having necessary tools readily available. Maybe you need to upgrade your headset, for example. Remove your chair so you have to stand up. You'll have more energy, more enthusiasm. There's stand-up whiteboard desks. There's all kinds of cool stuff that you can do. You can outfit your environment with posting your scripts on the wall, putting a mirror on the wall. Lots of different fun things that you can do, even if you have a tiny workspace.
That is a good place, by the way. Again, the pictures on the wall and whatnot of your loved ones, but you can put the pictures of the things that you find motivational, the things that you're working towards, specific goals. That's going to be another place to have in your work environment. Don't have any of this stuff. Julie and I love digital and just as much as all of you guys do, but you have to realize that when we are humans, and the idea of having something packed away behind a screen or a keyboard, like all your goals list are going to be on file on your computer.
Yeah, out of sight, out of mind, right?
That's not the same thing as having them on the wall in your work environment, because you're going to walk in your work environment and you're going to have a bunch of leads that you have to follow up on, and you're not going to want to do any of it. You're not going to want to ask them tough questions. You're not going to want to do any of it, but then you're going to look at that picture on the wall of the family vacation you're planning on taking this year, and that's going to motivate you. Just little psychological pushes like that. And again, remember this little bit too. You will never feel like doing the real work of anything, just as the fact. You're never going to feel like doing the real work of real estate, ever. It's never going to just, you might feel motivated to do it, but the motivation doesn't last the second you run across somebody that's grumpy. And that's okay. Expect that to happen, because here's what happens. When you get into the action of doing the work, what happens is your motivation changes. And the same goes when you're going on a workout. You hate working out, but you get on that treadmill, and after about 15 minutes, all of a sudden your body takes over and overpowers your ego, frankly, and all of a sudden you start getting little endorphins and whatnot that makes you encouraged to do more of the physical activity. So if you're expecting your mindset to lead your action set, that's the mistake. Again, a lot of reasons why people don't accomplish goals. The best way to get into action is to get into action, and then your mindset will change. Don't work on your mindset and read a bunch of motivational books and watch a bunch of motivational videos and do all the rest of the stuff that a lot of people do that never accomplish their goals. Get into the action of doing the real work of real estate. Do what you don't want to do, and you don't want to do it at the highest level. Don't worry about if you feel like it or not, and then you will feel like it, especially after you start, frankly, seeing yourself and feeling yourself being successful doing the work that maybe just 6 months ago or 60 days ago you thought was insurmountable. Hopefully you're understanding what I'm saying. I'm going to really drill down on it one more time. Do not wait for your mindset to be in place. Take physical actions and the mindset will follow. Do not make the mistake of working on your mindset, expecting that all of a sudden that's going to encourage you to get into action. It does not work that way.
And you know what? It's not just real estate. As you were talking, I was remembering one of my piano teachers who we had this discussion, like any musician will tell you they hate playing scales. Scales are like torture, but you have to do them all the time because music is made of scales. And I was like, I can't make myself practice on certain days. It's like going into your real estate office. Like you were talking about, don't lead with your mindset. And he said, just sit on the piano bench. Just approach the instrument and just sit on the piano bench, because what he was coaching me to do is to break the ice, take that first step, ignore your mindset. You're never, ever, as long as you live, going to want to play scales. But once you get your butt over to the piano bench, you're in front of the piano, you realize that you want to be good at piano, now you can lift the key cover and get started. So for some of you, it's the approach. And that's why this point, optimize your work environment, is really important. It needs to be a place that you want to be in.
Well, let me tell them, and this is a place where I'll embarrass myself a bit, but I want to tell you guys the best doctor I've ever heard explain what I just explained to all of you.
Oh,
you know what I'm going to talk about?
No,
Oh,
I don't
yeah, you
think so.
do. You're not going to
Tell
like me using this as an example, but I'm doing it
That's
anyway.
okay, go ahead.
All right, so I'm listening to Dr. Laura Schlesinger, and this is probably about
No,
20...
this is a great analogy. I know what you're going to say.
Oh, you think you do?
I do.
This is about 25 years ago. And Julie and I used to listen to Dr. Laura every day. We listen to her when we go on long drives now. She's sort of like our, I think our loving mother who gives us great advice.
Yeah, they don't know what it is. Some of them don't know. Imagine a podcast in the form of a radio show before there were podcasts.
Yeah, well, listen, just Dr. Laura Schlesinger, buy her books. Listen, I think she's back on the radio, but she's unbelievably fantastic. Just great, advice for couples with raising kids, families.
Gets right to it.
She gets right to it. It's like whenever I have a coaching client that's having a marital problem or having some kind of problem with their kids, I just send them links to Dr. Laura books and tell them to buy those. And never once have people not thanked me gratuitously for that. All right, so I'm listening to this Dr. Laura thing, and this lady calls in and she says, you know what, here's the deal. I've been married to my husband for 20 years, and this is the part that's going to be a little bit off topic for a real estate podcast, and we're not having sex anymore. He hasn't, we're just not interested anymore. We've fallen out of place, and we're like roommates again. I really miss the intimacy. I feel disconnected. This isn't the marriage I wanted for myself. It was pretty sad. And she went on and on and on, and how she's read books and how she's had all these other tests done, and physically she's fine. There's nothing. So she's, done all the stuff. All right. Dr. Laura said, do this. So the lady was working. She was like, what's wrong with my mindset? Maybe there's something wrong with my hormones. So she's kind of gone down the usual gauntlet. So Dr. Laura said, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go buy some lingerie. Do you have any lingerie? No, I just wear sweats every night and a t-shirt. Okay, well, problem number one. Number two, go buy some lingerie. And I want you, and so what time is it, you get home, she gets home before he does. I remember this because I've told other coaching clients about this.
Yep.
So she gets home from work before he does. So he comes home around 6, she's home around 4. She said, so make the house really nice, really romantic. Make a nice dinner, set some candles out, make it so that it's clear he's walking into a romantic, loving environment. Be sensitive to what kind of day he had. If this was a real stressful day, he's probably not going to really be in a mindset to do anything other than just veg out. So, take all these things into consideration. But wear the lingerie. Look sexy. Feel sexy.
Make the effort.
Make the effort. Don't wait to feel like I don't want to put on the lingerie, she goes on to say. Well, I've never worn lingerie. That's not me. And she said, well, just try it. And that was the end of the call, okay? She said, call me back in a week. The lady calls back in a week, and it was ridiculous what a difference it made. Oh my gosh, I did it. And not just once had we, been intimate, let's say, but it's been every night. And now I'm buying more lingerie. It really, really worked. And then there was other follow-up calls, but it was just more of the same. But here's what happened. Over time, the lady called back 2 or 3 times. Like I said, I used to listen every day. The lady called back 2 or 3 times, and not only was her sex life and her husband's sex life improving, but everything else was improving. She was now working out. She was going to the gym. They were spending a lot of time together. She talked about going to walks. They were playing on vacations. So all of this didn't happen because she read a self-help book or went and walked on Kohl's. All this happened because she took actions that led to emotional and mindset or mental changes. You guys get it?
She put the action before the mindset.
Right. So if you're not getting the love you want, start doing the love you want, and guess what happens? The emotions will follow. Take the actions. Don't wait for the emotions to lead. The problem with emotions and feelings in general is they're going to betray you because they change so frequently. They change all the damn time. So if you're just guided by your feelings and guided by your emotions, you're going to be guided in circles your entire life. Guide yourself by your actions. Decide where you want to be, who the person you want to be, and then take the actions. The emotions will follow a parubus. If you don't believe me, listen to Dr. Laura.
There you go. That's great coaching. So I appreciate you sharing that with them. All right. Last but not least, anticipate and plan for obstacles to your goal achievement. Identify potential challenges like kids' schedules, vacation time, market fluctuations, or other road bumps. Instead of using those as excuses, create a plan that takes them into account. As Tim just illustrated, for you with the Dr. Schlesinger example. Lead with action. Don't use things as excuses. There's always going to be something that gets in the way. There's a Henry Ford quote that said, obstacles are those frightful things you see when you take your eyes off of your goal. There's going to be things every single day that try and get in your way, but if you're leading with the actions that you've committed to, the discipline, the specifics, the accumulation effect, then of course you're going to get that much closer to your goal every single day. But anticipate and plan for those obstacles, work around them, work through them instead of turning them into excuses.
I want to emphasize something. Julie said Dr. Schlesinger. She calls herself Dr. Laura.
Oh, sorry.
So if you're going to read the books, if you're going to try to find her because you're essentially needing that in your life, which frankly everybody does, just research Dr. Laura.
It's a lot easier to spell too.
Well, exactly. But that's her brand, really.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I slept.
Did you know she lives in Carmel?
Does she really?
Yeah, she lives in Carmel, just
That's
north
funny.
of Big Sur.
I'll have to look for her next time we're there.
I know.
That's
I
funny.
honestly, I bet if we messaged her, we could probably meet up with her next time we're
That
out
would be
there.
cool. That would
Wouldn't
be
it?
really
It'd
fun.
be
I
amazing.
mean, she's been a good North Star for us.
Well, she would when we first got married, when we were only 20 and 21, listening to her every day really did give us a North Star for our marriage.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, 'cause we didn't know what
and
the
you and I
hell to
both have utilized her coaching in our coaching. So
Well, we
there you
have.
go, another example of too soon to tell, right? When we were listening to some of the things she said 20 years ago, who would have known that we would have used them now or even on this podcast? So there
20
you go.
20
Thank you, past Tim and Julie, for listening to Dr. Laura.
20 years ago, you're forgetting 34 years
Well,
ago.
you know, I didn't want it to sound too extreme.
Well, listen, guys, thank you for keeping this number one Listen To Daily podcast for real estate professionals in the United States. Please do remember to give us a 5-star review over on iTunes. We'd certainly appreciate your continued support. We love doing this podcast because of all the great feedback we get. If you, and frankly, we know we're making an impact on all of your lives based on your feedback. If you'd like to communicate with us, the best way to do it is just over on Instagram. Send us a direct message, and we're at Tim and Julie Harris. And make sure you give us a follow while you're over there. And also, if you are wanting to communicate direct podcast ideas or have a direct question or would like to talk with us about eXp Realty or all the other things that we talk about on this show, you can text me at 512-758-0206, 512-758-0206. That is my real cell phone number, but do text, don't call. I never answer the phone when it rings. It automatically goes to voicemail. Just send a text. In the meantime, have a fantastic day. We'll talk with you on the show tomorrow.